And here we go. All right. Rediscovering vinyl with Ryan and Nick. We are back again. We got another new album for you guys. Again, we just love doing these reviews, and they're not even really reviews. It's a discovery thing for us, kind of bringing to light some records that came out in a not so distant past, bringing them back up, showing them to you, maybe trying to find something that you might like. So, as always, me, Nick, my co-host Ryan.
Yeah, I think that's something I want to kind of touch on too is everything that we're listening to. We understand and know that these people are professional musicians. They know what they're doing. They are good at their craft, and we're just kind of more trying to put so much. There's so much music in this world that kind of gets kind of pushed aside because of the music industry. So we're using this as an opportunity to kind of put some new artists maybe in your ear and maybe find something you like. And so everything that we say about these things are just kind of like our own views, our own opinions. We try to throw some, intriguing things in there that you might like and things like that. So we hope to kind of open your eyes to a few things. This week we're doing Greta Van Fleet. Is that right, Nick?
Yep, Greta Van Fleet, their new album, Battle at Garden's Gate, which is their second full length, and we'll get into that because they have kind of a weird album history. Uh, but I guess, Ryan, what first take on it? What do you think?
Well, again, I've never listened to this band, so
Oh,
a
yeah,
lot
we
of
got to talk about
times,
that.
yeah, a lot of times when we try to pick something that neither of us have ever heard before, really, or listened to. Uh, when Nick brought this up, he actually brought this band up a couple weeks ago. I mean, I want to say before we did a couple of our episodes back, you mentioned this that they are
Hmm.
kind of have this. Um, Controversy behind them. I
Yep.
don't really, I haven't looked into that or know anything about that. So we'll get into that a little bit too, I think. And again, this stuff is brand new to us. And my process is I listen to it first song to last song, 2 or 3 times in a row. Um, I use my headphones, I use my car, and then I'll throw it on just like my loudspeakers on my receiver and just kind of get a feel for it. And then I start focusing on songs that kind of stood out to me and things like that. Um, I have quite a bit to say about this album. To kind of give, I don't know, Nick, how would you describe their sound then, just to kind of give them a little bit of an idea before we get into some of the specifics of the songs?
Well, the controversy, it's classic rock all through and through. It's heavily influenced uh 70s classic rock leads, beats, singing, the whole nine yards. Even their stage performance is harks back to that 70s golden era of classic rock, which gets us into, I don't know if we want to jump into the controversy right now.
Well,
Um,
I think I'm glad you said it like that. That's almost like a perfect, you kind of said it verbatim because on one of my notes, I said that this is a great modern day representation of classic 70s great rock. Like
yeah.
it's a great take on that style. I'll go into more detail about kind of where it isn't quite meeting that mark for me. It's
Hmm.
not a bad thing by any means. I think that they're a phenomenal band, and that dude, lead singer's got some pipes, man. He's got
Yeah.
some pipes, and I kind of want to. I don't. Do you want to talk about the singing first, or do you
Let's
want to
go.
save that
You
for
know what?
last?
Let's go through their history. Let's
Okay,
start there.
I like that.
So these guys are from small town Michigan, north of Detroit, a couple hours. They're in this town called Frankenmuth. It's like a German. It's like Germantown. There's only like 5,000 people that live in the city. This little town. Three of the guys are brothers:
Oh, okay.
Josh, Jake, and Sam. And so their drummer is the only one that's not a brother. The other three are literally they grew up together. Obviously, they listened to all their parents' records growing up. They kind of dug that vibe. And then it kind of gets interesting because they formed in 2012. Their first EP didn't come out till 2017, which is when I first. My history goes back a little further than that first EP in the 2017 era when that first EP went to number one. They had a huge hit on there. First EP had like 6 songs.
Yeah.
Then they had a second EP, another 6 songs, and then they had their first full length in 2018, And here's where it gets confusing: is the first full length had songs from the second EP on it. So
That tends to
it's,
happen.
you
They do
know,
that's a
yeah,
pretty common thing. Those EPs are kind of like their way of putting the song out there and seeing kind of
where
how
it
it feels.
goes.
Sometimes sometimes as a musician, you're writing these songs and they sound great in your head. They always sound phenomenal in your head. And it isn't until you put it down to get a really good feel on it. And a lot of times bands will do an EP. Kind of feeling out like what style of song. If you notice on EPs, the EPs tend to have kind of a wide range of
Hmm.
style with what they're working with. They're trying different harmony parts, vocal parts, lead parts, melodies, just different. They're kind of using that as their canvas to kind of start. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
while they're at it, might as well make some money with it. So then they see what's successful on the EP, and then I think that's kind of the route that they tend to go with.
Yep. And then they had the best rock album in 20. Actually, the second EP won best rock album of 2019.
Wow.
The full length had was let's see, went to is their third number one hit by the time they had their first full length. So I mean, these guys out the gate had
Yeah.
just flame EPs. Their full length went crazy, which gets us into the controversy. This, by the way, is their newest full length from 2021. Came out this spring, so that kind of gets us up to speed. So everything they put out has just done great. They won Grammys for
Mm-hmm.
best rock album. I mean, they're just killing it.
Yeah.
Which gets us into all the controversy because they're a lot of reviewers said they sound just like Led Zeppelin, and they even got some of the Zeppelin guys to comment in on it. So they have that lead singer has got the pipes, and I can see where he gets compared to you know to Page.
They definitely have that Led Zeppelin feel.
Yep.
I think in I don't know. I have quite a few notes here, so I don't know how we want to go about this, Nick. What do you think? Do we want to start? Do we want? I have some things I would like to talk about on the recording of it. I have some things to talk about the singer, the drums, what I think is missing. I don't know.
I,
What do you want to
I
start
think
with?
I think a good segue. We just talked about the Zeppelin sound alike. Let's get right into that.
Okay,
What are your thoughts on the whole there's a fine line between uh, trying to reinvent a sound from the 70s or just ripping it off. And I've always been on the side of, you know what? Led Zeppelin hasn't been around for 30 years, 40 years at this point. They're not touring. They're done. They've all moved on to other stuff or, whatever. Like, let someone else take this to torch and carry it on. So we can go see some live music and enjoy it. So I've always been on the side of, yeah, they're kind of taking that sound and making it their own, but I've always liked it. I've always been pro for it.
Sure.
So
I mean, it's the thing is, and I tell people this all the time. There's only so many notes that a musician can play. There's only certain progressions that work with each other. You can't just throw a whole bunch of notes together and write a song. It requires a certain progression, and I think for me, the reason why it's not a big deal to me, I definitely get if I'm writing a review, as a critic, and that's their job, is to
yeah,
kind of nitpick and pick apart something, sometimes to a fault. But I think with this, you wouldn't be doing the right thing if you didn't say they sound exactly like Led Zeppelin at times.
yeah,
That is a for sure. And I'm sure as a band they know. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
they're not dumb with it. So
yeah,
I think the reason why it doesn't bother me anymore, it did the first time through, Nick, listening to the
yep,
album, it did kind of bug me a little bit. I'm like, I feel like I've heard this. Then, I start thinking about it, and the singer gives a good dynamic, this and that. But the reason why it's not a big deal for me that they sound like Led Zeppelin is because they are not Led Zeppelin, and they never will be, and it will never be as good as Led Zeppelin. It doesn't
yeah,
matter how great of a song this band is going to write. Led Zeppelin is Led Zeppelin, and there's
yeah,
no comparison right there. You know what I mean?
yep,
So the thing that makes it not Led Zeppelin for me is, first off, the lead guitar player in Greta Van Fleet is good. He's phenomenal. He's really good. He's got he. I could never play what he plays. but it's nowhere near the guitar playing from Led Zeppelin. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's nowhere near it. The drums, not even close. You know, it's just not even close. It's almost like the technology of recording today
Mm-hmm.
um, disservice this band because Led Zeppelin's recordings has that edginess, that imperfection, those things that as a with the way you record today, you're not going to get that feel anymore. You know, it's
Yep.
raw. Led Zeppelin's raw, and these guys are manufactured. It's perfect. There's no
Yep.
mess ups. There's no little things with the drums. It's perfection. So that was hard for me to get over. That was a difficult thing for me to get over.
And I think the other thing that I didn't get to in their history is that how young these guys are.
Sure.
They are very young. They're at this point they're in their mid 20s.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when that first EP came out, they had a number one. I think the lead singer was 17. So I
That's
mean,
impressive.
so they went from a Led Zeppelin copy, and I think their earlier albums are even more Zeppelin esque. They got a lot of critical review, and then on this album, I feel they really stepped. They started to grow into their own a little bit, and I heard a
Okay.
little snippets of a little more Rush in it. I heard other classic rock kind of influences in it, um, but it was definitely not as rip Led Zeppelin ripoff
So that's
as
good
it
to
had
know.
been.
That's good to know because you want, especially with how young they are. I didn't realize that they were that
They
young.
are very,
That's
very. I
awesome.
don't think there's any of them even in their 30s.
You
They're
know
all in their
that
mid
makes
20s.
that makes me super excited because if they continue to grow and write and kind of push their limits, dude, they could be a pretty badass band. You know, and
Yeah,
you know everybody's a critic nowadays. You know,
yeah,
we all it's kind of a curse, but they that's impressive. That makes me excited and makes me want to invest in what they're doing because they are very good. They are very
yeah.
good.
I think back to your Zeppelin point, they'll never be Zeppelin. But they don't have to be. I mean, look,
No,
if they just
we don't
sounded,
want them to be.
no, we don't. But at the same point, if they just sounded like Zeppelin and they wrote shitty songs, they this would have even gotten to an album.
Sure.
So, you know, it's one thing to just be able to play the notes. It's another to be able to write a song that's catchy and fun. It's like trying to write that's almost the hardest thing to do. Okay, write the Lost Led Zeppelin tune.
Right.
Like, how are you going to do that?
Yeah.
Like,
That's not doable. Yeah, for sure.
when you approach it from that angle, it's like, well, how the heck am I going to do that? So, I get why people gave him a lot of crap. I think as a 17, 18, 19-year old, you take that, you ride that wave, you take that controversy, you take it to number one on the charts, and you start to develop yourself. And I
Yeah,
think,
absolutely.
I think
You
that's where we're at.
use that
Yep.
kind of critique to
And they
and
did.
give you a boost. And I'm glad
They
I'm
did.
glad I was able to catch them on this album. Let's talk about some really cool things that you liked because I'd like to touch on a few of those things. And then I kind of want to get into what what was missing for me
Okay.
as a whole.
Go
But
for it.
I don't know. So when it comes to this, let's talk about the singer for a second.
Yeah.
Um, he's definitely the his. It's almost like his voice is the instrument that I wish was in there, which I'll circle back to that as
Okay.
we go to what I think is missing. It's almost as if his voice is an instrument because I'll be honest, I couldn't tell you a lyric. Like I had a very hard time understanding what he was singing about.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
I,
yeah. I get what you're
I
saying.
and I think that's kind of on purpose because I think his voice is part of the instrumental
Melody. Yeah.
style. Yeah, I don't necessarily think. And the thing is I've listened to this album probably 10, maybe 15 times,
Mm-hmm.
and I've never looked up any lyrics because I've been trying to, he's got a unique pitch, he's got a unique tone and sound, and the way he gets from note to note, and he moves he fluctuates his voice in the middle of words. It's hard to follow. It almost was like the first time I heard Coheed and Cambria. It
Yeah.
was hard to understand what he was singing about because, first off, the lead singer Coheed, he writes very complex
Yeah.
verses and
Yeah.
parts, you know. So
Yes.
he's telling a story in a song, you know, like it's different. Um, but you're right. This album not only touched on Led Zeppelin, it touched on a couple other great bands. And
Yep.
I want to say this about the singer. To me, there are times where he has these swing up notes where he starts lower and swings up to a high note rather than hitting a low note and getting to a high note. He does like this kind of swing. It's almost like if you take your finger and go up the neck on a guitar string,
Okay.
it slides up. You know what I mean? It's kind of
Yep.
got that flow to it.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. He has moments where he kind of sounds like Steven Tyler from Aerosmith.
Ah.
And he does it every once in a while. I think that's what I liked about him is he's almost paying homage to some of these greats and be like,
Yep.
look, you're the reason I can do this because I sat and I practiced and practiced and practiced, and this is what I've gotten. So swings notes like Steven Tyler. He has moments of Freddie Mercury where the beginning of the song is very quiet and
Mm-hmm.
he is full blast pushing his vocal cords to the max. And he's got these kind of almost opera feel to the beginning of
Yes.
some of the songs.
Yep.
Okay.
Some of them did feel opera-esque. I will get
Yeah,
on
yeah.
that.
And
Yep.
Freddie Mercury was notorious for that. Even in
Yep.
between songs, he'd just yell stuff and have the crowd repeat back to him. It's that same kind of feel I got in some of those songs. When it comes to his lyric pacing and how he rhythmically goes through verses, it reminded me of Geddy Lee of Rush.
Oh.
And the way that he wrote and the way that Geddy Lee kind of sings his way through a verse, you know, it reminded me of that. So
All right.
that's kind of the other than Led Zeppelin. I think that's what I heard mostly, were those kind of things with him, with the lead singer at least.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the opera thing was something I definitely caught. Um, there was, like I said, there was definitely more balance in this record. You're starting to see. Obviously, I've listened to all their stuff coming up, so I'm very much more familiar with this band. I
Sure.
did not really listen to this record until our review, though. So I gave it one spin through when it came out, and I was like, I really want to get into this and really give it a shot. So I'm glad we did. Um, I get what you're saying about the lyrics, but I can because I've listened to them enough. I can read
Yeah,
through it.
and
My
I think
ears can read through it.
my
So
ear will catch up at some point.
yep,
I can definitely. It's not like he's up there just saying nonsense. I know
yeah,
that
yeah.
there's meaning to what he's singing. I mean, I feel it while he's singing it. I haven't caught on just yet.
What did you think? Well, I'm gonna skip forward a little. What was my favorite song? Was The Heat Above. It's the first tune on there. The first track got me pumped. Um,
Cool. I
that's
love hearing that. That's my favorite thing when an album starts off great. I thought the album sounded out great. I love the first song as well. It's
yep,
the most unique out of
yep.
all of them. The drum part is unique. Um,
It's their
that
new single. It's their single. They know
is
it's
it.
good.
Yeah, it's a good
Um,
one.
it's what they led the. I mean, My Way Soon, Age of Machine, Heat Above, Broken Bells, Built My Nations. The the what about the last song on the album though?
Okay, so that's my favorite. That was
All
gonna say
right.
that one's
So
my favorite.
so
The
that
end.
one was also a standout. It's easy to pick out the single, but sometimes that last track, I'm gonna let you take this because it's different.
It's a full blown kind of rock ballad.
Yeah.
Not in the sense of like a sing along. Um, I'm kind of a sucker for songs like this where you know the beginning is kind of a traditional style of song, and then it kind of builds up to this moment where they build up, build up, build up, and then they hit this peak and they plateau that peak for a while and just jam it. I mean, this song is 8 minutes and like 53 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah,
It,
that's a long
it's
one. The
it,
Weight of
it's
Dreams.
it's the only time on the album for me anyway. It's the only time on the album where I felt that the bass player and the drummer were allowed to actually jam because
Fair enough.
that's something that this album was missing for me is that's one major difference between them and Led Zeppelin. Zeppelin's drummer will rock out.
Yeah.
He will fill and fill and fill. He will play off beats throughout the. I mean, he is the difference sometimes
Mm-hmm.
between Zeppelin and some bands, you know. And I think that if they let him go, if they tease you with it too. There's parts where you can hear he's got the ability to do it. He does
Yeah.
these cool little fills every once in a while, especially on song number one. But it's not enough. It's missing. It becomes too. I don't want the drum part to syncopate with the guitar and bass part all the time. You know, that was something that was
Yeah.
missing for me. But at the end of the last song of Weight of Dress, dude,
Weight of
that
Dreams.
jam, or yeah, I'm sorry, Weight of Dreams. That jam was awesome, and it goes on
Yeah.
for like a good 3 minutes. So big fan of that one. I was also a big fan of is it the end of Light Trip? Is that what Light Trip? Is that the name of the song?
Like, well, well, first of all, so my notes, it's like heat above. Did you at least one time, because it's light of love, light my love?
Uh
Did you at least just one time just say lick my love pump? Because all I could think about and the light my love, it just rhymed with lick my love pump for any of you
well, and it's
fans out there. I was like, oh man, that lyric
that's
almost
funny
fits.
because it actually kind of fits the slowness of Lick My Love Pump too as
Yeah,
well. It's
and the
kind of
lyric.
like the slow ballad.
Yep. I was like, "Oh my gosh, is this?" So
No,
yeah, I definitely had that noted.
that song has a really cool choir part.
Yep.
It had a full choir singing with the lead singer, and it just had a really full, awesome feeling. I really dug the end of that song. It's their slower rock ballad kind of feel, kind of in the middle of the album there, I think, and it just kind of transitions it to the end. But yeah, man, I liked that part. I don't know if you remember that part, Nick, at all, but it was very full, and it played really well with the lead singer's voice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I'll be jamming this. I mean, I'm gonna jam this weekend. I mean, I really dug this record. I think it's definitely worth a listen. For anybody who's a classic rock fan, which is just about
yeah,
everybody. Uh, I know they've gotten a lot of controversy. I think they've kind of blown past that. In fact, I don't know if did you see any videos or anything of them, but they dress the part too.
I usually wait until we do the review, and then I'll probably
Okay,
watch them live tonight because I
they
don't want to get I don't know. It's just the way that I've
that's
been doing
fine.
it.
They
Um,
he dresses in the old vest and they wear the 70s pants and they almost like remember when Jet came out and they tried to
yeah,
do the they did it as like what they call that it's they kind of tried to copy that a different style
yeah.
these
I,
guys but they've now done it for so long they've been doing it for 3-4 years that now it's like it's almost they're past the controversy it's now theirs
it's
kind of
just
like
their
it's
it's their
just now they're
persona now.
yeah
You know, they're like the Doors when it comes to that. I think in the style, everyone loved dressing like Jim Morrison, and you know that
yeah
Doors kind of feel.
yeah
Um, you know, and I do wish that this band had an organ player, man.
oh
I think
yeah
there's a couple parts where there's a piano part and an organ part, but man, that would have been really cool to just have a badass organ lead every once in a while. You know, like I think that was missing out. You know, one last thing before we go, I want to comment on one little part that I remember. His vocal part at the is it the end of light? What was that? The end of light trip?
trip of you're talking about the trip the light fantastic that's
Yeah.
the second to last song on the record
Okay, so yeah, it's something like that. I'm terrible with the names of the songs. I'm like jamming and I'm writing notes down as I'm trying to listen at the same time. Um, the end, there's a really cool high pitched part that occurs, and it sounds like Kenny G coming in on the saxophone. I mean, it like made me want to have babies kind of thing. He comes in and does this solo with his voice as the song disappears, as the song fades out. And it sounds like squeal octaves of Kenny G. And I'll tell you what, if you are ovulating, stay away
oh
from
my
that part.
gosh
it
oh my
was
gosh
it was awesome. But yeah, dude, I love the album. I'm gonna definitely check out their older stuff and kind of check out and see how they've grown over the years.
Yep.
Um, I know we kind of went a little bit longer than usual on this one, but there's a lot to say. I feel this
Yeah.
is they're a band that man, if in place of Led Zeppelin, they would have been huge at the time too. So I'm glad they're doing well, and I hope they continue to do well.
Yeah, they're young. We'll see how they develop. We have the record Battle at Gardens Gate at Toad Hall, toadhallonline.com. You can pick it up now. $31. It's a 2 LP package. It's textured, makes you give you that 70s feel. It's got the foil for the gate. All the songs are in foil on the back. It's cool packaging. From the Greta Van Fleet fans I've had in the store, all say that this is their favorite. And I get it. It's probably their most complex work, which
Yeah,
is I mean, as you grow as a musician and you grow out of the real simple stuff, you start to bring in your own stuff. You start to, make it a little more complex. It wasn't snubbed. We've sold a lot of them. It's not a bomb or by any means. It's just, it came out in the spring and, now we're here in midsummer and it's definitely I'm going to jam this on the car ride here. I'm getting ready to go on a little trip. So I'll be
cool.
jamming this for sure.
Awesome. Well, is it next week, Nick? We have a guest joining us. Is that next week
Yeah,
or
we're
two
gonna be.
weeks?
We got a guest coming on. One of our buddies. And you're a bandmate over there, and
Yeah, yeah. Former, still play music with him to this day. He's one of our best friends. His name's Jason Augsburger. He plays in a local band right now that's really good. I highly suggest checking them out, and I'm sure he'll talk about them when we have him on. But yeah, we have him coming on as a special guest because the group that we're going to be listening to is kind of right up his alley, and he has a great ear for it. So he'll have a lot of good stuff to say. I know that for sure. He's very knowledgeable, especially in the style that we're going to be doing. But he's not in our next step. It's not the next one. It's the one
might be
after that,
two.
right? Two
He's
episodes.
busy.
Yeah.
He's busy biking across Iowa this week.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, he's
brag,
Forrest
bry,
Gumping, right? He's Forrest Gumping on the bike right now.
pretty much.
But yeah, man, it was a great chatting with you. I'm glad we did this album. Check out our other episodes, subscribe, like, do all that stuff. And please head down to Toad Hall if you have not already. They got a lot of good stuff. And we'll see you next time.
Take it easy, guys. Thanks for watching.